If anybody's interested, I'm drinking soda, watermelon flavored soda water.
And we are now live, Sean.
Thank you. So I'd like to call the Township of Clearview Committee of Adjustment meeting for Wednesday, September 8th to order. We are online via Zoom, as well as being broadcast on the Clearview Township YouTube channel. I see all members of committee are present. We'll start with the approval of the minutes of our meeting of July 14th, which have been previously circulated to members of committee. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none. We have fancy dancy new cards. All in favor of approving the minutes as circulated? That is carried unanimously.
He's all laughed at me.
No, nobody laughed at you, Barry. We were just envious.
Sorry, Chairman. Did we have a motion, like as someone that moved the minutes? Sorry.
Oh, who's moving? We'll take Dave and we'll second it by Dan.
Thank you.
They all got their cards up too fast. I'd ask members of committee if anyone has any pecuniary interest with respect to the 3 items on our agenda this evening. Seeing none. Our first application is minor variance, files 21A21, property located at 12042 County Road 10. I'll turn it over to our secretary to provide notice and any public or agency comments. Christine?
Thank you. The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 12042 County Road 10, formerly Sunnydale, legally described as Concession 9, South Part Lot 14, west side of the road, and reference plan 51R 38669, parts 1 and 2. The purpose of the application is to request the approval of the Committee of Adjustment for relief from section 2.6.3 to permit a swimming pool to be located closer to the front lot line than the front wall of the primary building. The effect of the application is to allow for the installation of an above-ground pool on the subject lands. We received comment from the chief building official having no concern or objection to the application. And we have a recommendation from the planning department that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approve minor variance 21A21 pertaining to lands at 12042 County Road 10 and legally described as south part of Lot 14, WSR Concession 9, and reference plan 51R 38669, parts 1 and 2, formerly in the Township of Sunnydale, now in the Township of Clearview, on the basis that it meets the 4 tests in accordance with the Planning Act and with the following condition: that the swimming pool is permitted to be located closer to the front lot line than the front wall of the primary building. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Christine. See the applicant, and am I pronouncing this properly? Mr. Bill Bile?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Do you have any further comments or information to add that other than report?
I don't think so.
Straightforward, but always give you the opportunity. Any members of committee have any questions, either of staff or the applicant, with respect to this application? Seeing none, I'd ask then for a motion. Motion to approve the recommendation, moved by Mr. Burton, seconded by Mr. Rowell. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. There is a 20-day appeal period, and then not sure you'll have any time to swim in it this year, but we'll give it a shot. All
Well,
right.
we're hoping for install next year. So next summer.
Excellent. Well,
So,
it's always nice to have someone that's forward thinking and goes through the process prior to the 11th hour. So congratulations.
thank you very much.
And welcome to the community. You just recently purchased this property, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent. Well, welcome to Clearview.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you
Have a good evening.
as well. Our next application, minor variance file 21A20, property located at 236 Sunnydale Street. It's a request to amend the condition. So Christine?
Yes, so we have received a letter from the applicants, which I can read. It says, to the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview. Recently, we, Amy and Joshua Freeman, attended a variance meeting for our property, 236 Sunnydale Street, Stayner, and our variance was passed with the stipulation that a small shed at the back of the property be removed before the permit would be issued. We are writing in hopes that we could proceed with our permit with the shed standing until 30 days after the accessory building is built. Due to COVID-19, our accessory building will take longer than expected to build due to building materials on back order. So we are concerned that we will have no place to store our outdoor lawn equipment when the weather changes if we take down the shed at the back of the property before our permit is issued. Thank you for your consideration, Amy and Joshua Freeman.
All right, thank you for that. So I see from our minutes that the original recommendation was moved by Member Burton. Barry, do you have any questions or concerns with respect to this request to?
I actually have no conditions. I read it. I went to the property. Totally understand. I understand that COVID's been a real problem for supply, just on this property, but various other properties around the township. Being deputy mayor, I'm aware of how far behind people have fallen because of supply and demand. So I would support the request.
All right. Any other members of committee have any comments? No. So procedurally, to our secretary, do we then bring forward the motion as passed at our July 14th meeting with an adjustment? So it'd be moved again that the minor variance 21A20 be granted as applied for, subject to the following conditions. Maintain conditions 1 and 2. Total gross floor area of the accessory building need to be a maximum of 111.64 meters squared. The maximum height of the accessory building is to be 5.26 meters. And alter condition number 3, that the existing accessory building shed shown on the site plan attached to the report will be demolished and removed 30 days after the, and what do we say here? Final building occupancy permit, or are we going final permit?
So Sean, what I would suggest after speaking with planning staff as well with regards to the request is that we would maybe have a motion that would read that we would require the applicants to also apply for their demolition permit for the shed at the same time as they apply for the new garage. And that we would stipulate that once they receive occupancy on the new garage, they would then have 30 days from that date to remove the existing shed. And we would also like them to provide an undertaking in writing that we can include in the permit file, promising that they will be removing that shed.
All right. So I see Mr. Burton is moving what you just said.
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Chuck? Any comments from the applicant, from Ms. Freeman? Does that seem acceptable to you?
That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any further comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, so I'll call for the vote then to approve the change in condition to permit the maintaining of the shed until 30 days after the occupancy permit, provided that the demolition permit is applied for at the time of the building permit. Is that a summary of what you've said, Madam Secretary? All right, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Christine will communicate with you, Ms. Freeman, about how that will happen procedurally.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. All right. Our final application for this evening, consent file 21B06 and 21B07, property located at 1918 Concession 8 South. property we're referring to as the Warwick property. This is our third go around, and it's been an exciting 60 days from what I understand to have us get where we're at. So I'm going to turn it over to our secretary, who's going to talk about a few issues related to notice and summarize. Then we'll bring in Rosalind and Mr. Russell to summarize where we're at. Christine?
Great. Thank you, Chairman. So it was discovered by staff that when the original hearing notice was circulated, unfortunately, the condominium lands that abut the Devil's Glen Country Club did not receive the mailing notice. The reason for this is our technician that looks after doing our circulations, there were no mailing addresses attached to those lands. So when you have a number of different unit owners within a condominium corp, typically under the Planning Act, the requirement is that the condo corp would receive the notice and then they would be responsible to share that with those that live within the condominium corporation. And in this case, the tax bills actually, most of them go to the Devil's Glen Country Club for circulation. And there are the odd few that have specific requests having them mailed to their permanent residences outside of Clearview. So unfortunately, within the system that we use to do our circulation, we didn't have those addresses. And when it was discovered that they didn't receive notice, staff ensured that they did receive that notice. And since receiving that notice, we did receive a number of comments. So from the condominium corporation number 18, we received comments, as well as from other condo members, Beth Evans, Greg Hemphill, Margaret Atkinson, Jason McDermott, Michael and Maureen Haggerty, Jennifer Ferguson, and Paul Henry. And to summarize the comments from those initially, included concern with the proposed lot configuration that would potentially allow access to the South Road, and stated concerns that there was an existing access agreement that was only to allow access for one single family dwelling that exists for the Wierskas, and some concern about increased traffic. And then today we received a new email from Mr. Gord Russell explaining that they had a new reconfiguration for the lot to eliminate the finger, for lack of a better term, that would come down to South Road. And he did, I believe, share that with the Condo Corp as well as the other residents that had provided comments. And since that was circulated, we received further comments from the Condominium Corporation, as well as from Jennifer Ferguson and Paul Henry, stating that they had no concern with the new lot configuration, that they were agreeable to the new information they received today. We also received an email from Judy Monk Rhodes from the Niagara Escarpment Commission, and I will read her email. It says that NEC staff confirm that the revised site plans attached to the email do not offend the Niagara Escarpment Plan, and staff can support this reconfiguration. We will endeavor to process a new development permit application that reflects the revised site plan within the 6-month timeframe. And I also have the addendum report from the Planning Department. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approves consent 21B06, being the lot addition, pertaining to lands at 90B South Road, 1918 and 1930 Concession 8 South, formerly Nottawasaga, and legally described as Concession 8 North Part Lot 17, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the full length of the portion of land that is 13.9 meters wide extending west toward the abutting South Road be removed from the property to be severed, and that the longer rear lot line be extended perpendicular to the side lot lines to be approximately 151.4 meters, which is the entire width of the newly created lot, such that the lot is rectangular once merged with 1930 Concession 8 South. 2, that the applicant meet all the requirements, financial and otherwise, of the municipality, including payment of the fee of $150 for each certificate of consent to be issued. 3, that the applicant provides a description of the land which may be registered under the requirements of the Registry Act or Land Titles Act as applicable. 4, that any mortgage on the property be discharged from any lands being severed, and that the solicitor provide an undertaking in writing that this condition will be fulfilled. 5, that the applicant successfully apply, if required, to revise the approved development permit, Niagara Escarpment Development Permit number 11965 SR 2019-2020-9187, dated February 21st, 2021, to reflect the the recommendations to remove the full length of the portion of the land that is 13.9 meters wide, extending west toward the abutting south road, and that the longer rear lot line be extended perpendicular to the side lot lines to be approximately 151.4 meters, which is the entire width of the newly created lot, such that the lot is rectangular once merged with 1930 Concession 8 South. 6, that the property known as 1918 Concession 8 South be merged, including the merging of PIN numbers, with the property known as 1930 Concession 8 South. 7, that a 1 foot square from Lot B, 1930 Concession 8 South, is conveyed to the Township of Clearview Road Allowance to facilitate the merging of the lands 1918 Concession 8 South, and that the solicitor provide an undertaking in writing that this condition will be fulfilled, as well as merging the PIN numbers to have only one PIN number for the new reconfigured parcel should it be required. 8, that an entrance permit be obtained from the Township of Clearview Public Works Department for Lot A, 90B South Road, and that one of the entrances be closed on Lot B, 1930 Concession 8 South to the Township's satisfaction. And 9, that the conditions of 21B07 easement must be fulfilled once the conditions of 21B06 lot addition are completed. And further approves consent 21B07 easement pertaining to lands at 90B South Road, 1918 and 1930 Concession 8 South, formerly Nottawasaga, and legally described as Concession 8 North Part Lot 17, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the applicant meet all the requirements, financial and otherwise, of the municipality, including payment of the fee of $150 for each certificate of consent to be issued. 2, that the applicant provides a description of the lands which may be registered under the requirements of the Registry Act or Land Titles Act as applicable. 3, that the solicitor provide an undertaking confirming that the easement, which will be a 15 meter by 50 meter rectangle, will be registered in favor of the allowing access for the owners of the newly created Lot B, which is the lands located to the south of the lands that will be conveying the easement. And 4, that the conditions of 21B06 lot addition must be fulfilled prior to the conditions of 21B07 easement being completed. And I would also like to comment when I was speaking of the error in the notice being provided to the condominium corp lands, is that now that we have that contact information for the condominium corp, the township will ensure in the future that any further circulations or notices will be sent to them directly. And that's all I have.
Right, thank you. Rosalind, do you have any comments with respect? Your staff report just refers to one small change to condition 3, which is deleting the portion that the easement will allow the use of the driveway to access South Road, which I think is important to the condominium corp. Is that correct?
Yes. I believe, yeah, because even in the correspondence that was received today from the condominium corp, one of the conditions was that the easement only allow access in that box and not to allow access onto the South Road. So. And I think there was another amendment that we discussed even at the previous meeting. I think it was condition 6, and I don't know if it got read, but it should actually read a portion of 1918 concession, because we're not severing the entire parcel.
Right. So that the property known as 1918 Concession 8 South, a portion of.
Yes.
Portion of. Okay, that a portion of the property known as 1918 Concession 8 South be merged, including the merging of pins with the property known as 1930 Concession 8 South. Correct?
That's my recollection. I'll leave it to Mr. Russell as well to confirm if that is, because he did point that out to me as well, so.
Mr. Russell, nice to see you. It's been a interesting 60 days.
Yes, thank you very much. As per the direction of the Committee of Adjustment, we had undertaken best efforts to review the concerns of the township with the Niagara Escarpment, and unfortunately, the Niagara Escarpment has advised that a new NEC application is required to undertake the modifications. We also had discussions with members of the Condominium Corporation, and through those discussions, we were able to achieve what the township has recommended in terms of lot configuration. So first off, I would like to ask the committee if in fact they'll accept the revision of this application. And if so, I'd like to just talk about the actual revision itself. So I'm assuming that the township is officially agreeing to the revision of the consent application.
That is the recommendation of staff. So we'll hear the rest of your comments, and then, but I feel I can't speak for my committee members. We'll have that discussion after you've provided us with your presentation.
Okay, so we concur with the recommendations as outlined in the addendum report of September 8th. I would just like to ask that the actual address of the property be identified as 90B South Road. That is the correct address for the applicants, and they would just like to have that modified. Number one condition, if the committee does accept the revision to the application, that has then been fulfilled. So condition one would be redundant, and I'd ask that it actually be removed from the conditions because we've already satisfied it if the committee actually approves of the revision. So that they would be approving the lot configuration as outlined in condition one, and therefore we don't need condition one. So I'd ask you to think about that. Condition number 5, it took 13 months to complete the application, the first go around at the NEC. Now they are going to do their best efforts to undertake a revise or a revision as quickly as possible to the NEC application. I anticipate that we'll be able to submit that at the end of the month. And so within 6 months, we should be able to meet that time frame within the 1 year conditional consent if granted. That said, if something comes up that's out of our control, I would ask the committee if we go beyond the 1 year allowance for meeting the conditions and obtaining consent approval. And if the proposed amendment to the Planning Act does not come forward and allow an extension, we will actually have to resubmit the consent applications. And I would just ask for consideration that if we have to come back and renew the applications, that those fees be waived. It's certainly not the fault of the applicants that we are modifying the NEC application at this time. It's just out of our hands. So we'd just like to flag that as first consideration. And then of course, condition number 6, it was to be only part of the property that was going to be merged with the original 1930 Concession 8 South Road. So those are the modifications that we would like to have addressed. I believe the new configuration of the lot satisfies the everybody concerned. It does not conflict with the Niagara Escarpment plan as confirmed by Judy Rhodes-Monk and of the NEC, and it definitely conforms to the county official plan, conforms to the township official plan, and it's appropriate development, and I'd ask the committee to approve the application.
All right, well, thank you, sir. So with respect to your request for condition 1, we'll have to have that discussion as a committee. With respect to condition 5 and your consideration of waiving of fees if we have to go through this process again because we can't meet the 1-year requirement under the Act. As you're aware, I'm sure you're aware, there has been legislation that has come forward and an act that has received royal assent, but the regulations are not yet in place to enact it, which will extend that time to 2 years. We have no indication as to whether or not that will be retroactive or if it will only be for applications going forward from the time that it becomes enacted. So we're very much in support of that extension of timeline because it can, particularly applications like this where there's multiple levels of authority. With respect to the fees, though, this committee does not have the ability to do that. That would be a request that would have to come forward to the council of the Township of Clearview. So we will make note of it, or the planning staff will make note of that and provide you with the information on how to make a delegation and presentation to the council of the day if we get to that point 12 months from now. So that's all that I can advise you on that. Members of committee, this has gone a very circular route, but we seem to be at a terminus that perhaps we can all agree upon. So are there any questions, clarifications from either Mr. Russell or Ms. Workman? We'll start with Dave.
Actually, my question is going to be directed to us towards Mr. Warwick. During the correspondence that we received from the Simcoe County or Simcoe Condominium Corporation 18, as well as Devil's Glen, in my little mind, it became apparent that you guys are really reliant upon the South Road entrance. I have difficulty with that. I know that it occurs thousands and thousands of locations across the province where people have agreements to come across other people's property. People have agreements to come into their cottages in Northern Ontario across reserve land, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My question to you is, have you considered strongly actually developing and improving the road that comes across your property from concession 8? It's a long way, I grant you that. It's part of the easement that we're also considering this evening. But boy, oh boy, it sure is nice to have something that comes across your property that you control 110%. So there's my question. Have you considered about improvements to the road coming from concession 8 back to your lovely home?
Well, the road, if you look at the elevations of our property, the road actually has quite a climb up the property in the middle. We could possibly make a road that worked well in the summer. I think it would be a very difficult road in the winter. We did have an estimate to have that done 8 years ago, but I guess the estimate wouldn't guarantee that it would be safe in the winter just because of how steep it was in the middle of the farm. We do have a road license to enter onto the South Road. I believe it's a 20-year license, renewable every 20 years. I think even the Condo Corp would say that we have good relations with the condominium. We must remain ski club members. This whole situation here on Lot B is unfortunate because we were never seeking road access for that second lot. We started this process 2 years ago, informed Clearview, informed the Condo Corp what we were doing. And no one ever said definitively, no, we don't like Lot B bordering on the South Road. So, if someone had said that 2 years ago, we could, in a much less costly way, have changed it and been done with things by now. But so we understand. We've got one road license. We have to remain good neighbors. A road down to the county road would be a bit of an engineering feat, so we would prefer not to do that.
Just to follow up then, you brought up the agreement. So it's got about 20 years left, is that correct? Roughly?
Well, I think we're 8 years into it.
Okay. Is it revocable by both parties or either party, or can it be canceled at any point in time for, I don't know, bad hair day, something stupid like that?
Well, I think we'd have to be very unreasonable neighbors to have it revoked. But in the interests of good relations with the condo board and the club, we did feel we had a prescriptive right to use that road. We gave that up completely for a road license, and we just think it's going to work longer term.
There are other members of the ski club that have road agreements with the club.
Yeah, Stephen Dent, for example, at the top of the ski club has a similar arrangement.
Okay,
And
and again,
is,
it's none of my business. I just come back to the fact that, boy, it's nice to have access to your property through your property, starting on a road that comes directly to your property, as opposed to relying upon neighbors. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's the point that I wanted to ask about.
Great. Other members of committee, any comments or questions or clarifications? No? Seeing none? All right, so we do have a lengthy recommendation in front of us. Do we have someone to proposing any amendments or moving the staff recommendation?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to leave. If we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about the changes the recommendation as it is right now. I can appreciate what Mr. Russell said. I think because things came flowing in between, I guess, yesterday and prior just to this meeting, I think that we could leave condition 1 there, because as far as I know, it may be redundant, but it gives us something fairly straightforward to vote on until we see all the final documents and the final maps, or I'm sorry, at least until Roslyn sees all the final maps and all the final documents and so on and so forth that have been approved by the various parties. And so that's my only comment with regard to the recommendations that have been presented to us, is just to leave that there. Maybe redundant, but better be redundant than something go haywire because for whatever reason it can go haywire.
I understand it's always good to have one thing checked off your to-do list right away. Comments from other members? Seeing none, then am I taking that as a motion then, Dave? So a motion to approve the recommendation as circulated with that 3-word amendment in number 6, that it simply says that a portion of the property, and leaving all other conditions as printed in the staff report of September 8th. Do I have a seconder? Member Burton, any further? Seeing nothing, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Thank you, committee.
And thank you to the Warwicks, and good luck. And I'm sure that the NEC will be helpful. I know Mr. Burton will do what he can as well.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Madam Secretary, procedural, what did I screw up?
Nope, that's okay. Just to confirm that the motion is for both consent B06 for the lot addition and also for the easement as well.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. As you read it in your lengthy orientation. All right. Excellent. Is there any other new business?
I have nothing.
Anything from committee? Seeing none. Next meeting tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, October the 13th. Do we have any applications at this point?
Not at this point. The deadline for submission is next Monday, September 13th. I'm not aware of anything coming in, but you never know. So I will keep you informed as to whether our meeting will be held.
Very good. Anything else for the betterment of the committee? Seeing none. Motion to adjourn. Chuck, Dave, Dan, Dave, Barry, all of you. All right. Thank you very much. And again, thank you to the Russells and the Warwicks. And we will